The stench of blood sweat and alien pheromones hung heavy in the air of Sector 47's underground arena. Kai Blackwood adjusted the straps on his mechanical gauntlets, ignoring the dried crimson stains from his previous 2 matches. The crowd, above a mixture of intergalactic species, traitors and lowlifes, roared as the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. And now for his 3rd fight today, the Earthling gladiator, the resilient blade, Kai Blackwood. Kai stepped into the arena, squinting against the harsh lights. Sand crunched beneath his boots. Real sand imported at great expense to give the wealthy spectators that authentic gladiatorial experience. His opponent, a hulking Duraxian with chitinous plates, covering most of its body, snarled from across the pit. As Kai measured the distance to his opponent, his mind drifted to the real reason he was here. Not glory, not the thrill, just credits. Credits to free Elise, his sister captured 2 years ago during a colonial raid, and now working in the mines of Cygnus 4. Today's matches would finally give him enough to buy her freedom. The buzzer sounded, the Duraxian charged. Kai sidestepped with practiced precision, his enhanced reflexes, the product of black market augmentations. He'd scraped together money for giving him the edge. The creature barreled past its momentum, carrying it toward the arena wall. Before it could recover, Kai's mechanical gauntlet connected with the back of its head between 2 armored plates. The impact reverberated up his arm, but the Duraxian staggered. The crowd's energy swelled a mixture of cheers and jeers. Among them, Kai knew sat Grix, the arena master, the man who held the credits that would buy Elise's freedom. The Duraxian turned its compound eyes, flashing with rage. It lunged again, this time with more control. Kai met the charge head-on, sliding beneath the creature's swinging arm and driving his mechanical fist into its unprotected abdomen. The Duraxian doubled over, and Kai finished it with a brutal uppercut that sent it sprawling. "Victory to the Earthling," the announcer bellowed. 3 wins today for Kai Blackwood, a new record in Sector 47. Kai stood in the center of the arena, breathing heavily, his arms raised as the crowd cheered. But he felt nothing. This was just business, just the final step before he could claim his payment and arrange for Elise's release. As he exited the arena, a slimy Vextall handed him a towel. "Boss wants to see you," it gurgled through multiple breathing apparatuses. Kai nodded, wiping blood from his face. He followed the creature through dingy corridors until they reached Grix's private lounge, a gaudy affair of stolen luxury furniture and priceless artifacts, all crammed into a room that reeked of alien cigars and expensive liquor. Grix himself was a bloated Canthian, his 6 eyes swiveling to fix on Kai as he entered. His translator device clicked before emitting a raspy approximation of human speech. "The champion arrives. 3 fights, 3 victories. Impressive Earthling." Kai didn't bother with pleasantries. "I've earned enough credits. I want to arrange Elise's transfer immediately." Grix's fleshy mouthparts twitched in what might have been amusement. "Always so direct. It's why the crowds love you." He gestured to one of his guards. "Bring in the fighters. Reward." Something in Grix's tone made Kai tense. 2 guards returned, dragging between them a figure in restraints. They threw their burden to the floor at Kai's feet. It was a woman, or at least woman-shaped. Her skin was a pale green with delicate patterns that seemed to shimmer under the harsh lighting. Her hair, if it could be called that, resembled fine emerald filaments that moved slightly of their own accord. She wore what appeared to be ceremonial garments, now torn and soiled. "What is this?" Kai demanded, his voice dangerous. "Your reward," Grix replied, all 6 eyes, blinking in sequence. "A Verdante, very rare, worth triple the credits we agreed upon." "I don't want a slave," Kai spat. "I need credits to free my sister. That was our agreement." The Verdante woman's head snapped up at his words, her eyes entirely violet, with no discernible pupil fixing on him with unexpected intensity. Grix waved a dismissive appendage. "Agreements change. The mining company increased their price for your sister. This Verdante will fetch more than enough if you sell her to the right buyer. His voice lowered. The Hegemony Corporation has been particularly interested in acquiring Verdante specimens. Kai's fists clenched the mechanical components of his gauntlets, whirring in response to his tension. You know I don't deal in slaves. I fight. You pay. That's our arrangement. Then you are free to leave without compensation, Grix said, his tone hardening. Or take the Verdante, your choice champion. Before Kai could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Grix's guards tensed, weapons appearing in their various appendages. The arena master hissed something in his native tongue, then addressed Kai. Hegemony mercenaries. They must have tracked the Verdante here. His mouth parts twisted. Take her and go, or stay and die with her. Makes no difference to me. The door to Grix's lounge exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris, figures in sleek black armor poured in, weapons raised. Hegemony Corporation. The lead figure announced through a voice modulator. We're reclaiming our property. Stand aside. Kai made his decision in a split second. He yanked the Verdante woman to her feet and pulled her behind a toppled piece of furniture as plasma bolts began to fly across the room. Grix and his guards returned fire, creating momentary chaos. Stay down, Kai ordered the woman, then vaulted over their cover to engage the nearest mercenary. His mechanical gauntlet connected with the mercenary's helmet, cracking the visor. The man staggered backward, and Kai followed with a devastating uppercut that lifted the mercenary off his feet. He grabbed the fallen soldier's weapon, a compact Hegemony HX-7 blaster, and took out two more with precision shots. When he turned back to check on the Verdante, he was stunned to see her in motion. Despite her restraints, she moved with fluid grace, using her bound hands as a single weapon. She had already disabled one mercenary and was engaged with another, her movements reminiscent of ancient Earth martial arts, but with an alien fluidity that no human could match. Their eyes met across the battlefield for a split second. Understanding passed between them. Kai turned and fired at her restraints. The cuffs shattered, freeing her hands. Immediately, her fighting style transformed. She moved like water, flowing around the mercenaries' attacks and striking vital points with inhuman precision. Together, they fought their way toward the exit. Kai provided covering fire, while she disabled opponents with her bare hands. As they reached the corridor, Kai grabbed her arm. This way, he said, pulling her toward a maintenance shaft he'd noted during his first week fighting in the arena. The underground levels. We can lose them there. She nodded, following him without question. Behind them, more alarms sounded as the firefight between Grix's forces and the Hegemony mercenaries intensified. They descended through narrow passages, the sounds of combat growing distant. The maintenance tunnels were dimly lit by emergency lighting, casting everything in a red glow that made the Verdante woman's skin appear almost black. When they were several levels below the arena, Kai finally stopped, allowing them both to catch their breath. Why did you help me? The Verdante asked, her voice surprisingly melodic, with an accent Kai couldn't place. I don't deal in slaves, Kai answered simply. And I don't like the Hegemony Corporation. She studied him, her violet eyes unreadable. You fight in a slave arena, yet claim moral objection to slavery. Kai's jaw tightened. I fight willing opponents for credits, to free my sister from an actual slave labor camp. He glared at her. Not that I owe you an explanation. Your sister, she repeated, something shifting in her expression. Family means much to you humans. To most species, Kai countered. What's your name? She hesitated, then answered Zia. I'm Kai Blackwood. I know who you are, Earthling. Your reputation extends beyond this arena. Kai frowned. How would a Verdante slave know about me? A small smile played at her lips. I never said I was a slave. Before Kai could process that statement, the tunnel shook with an explosion from above. Dust rained down on them. They're using explosives to search the maintenance levels, Kai said, checking the charge on his stolen blaster. We need to keep moving. Where? Zia asked. Kai considered their options. This station has a secondary hangar for emergency evacuation. Level 35 Eastern Quadrant. We can steal a ship. A sensible plan, Zia agreed. But first we need to make a stop. Kai stared at her incredulously. A stop? We've got Hegemony forces trying to kill us and you want to run errands. Data core level 28, she said firmly. There's information there I need. Information about something called Project Ascension. Whatever it is, it's not worth our lives. Her violet eyes hardened. It is worth billions of lives, Kai Blackwood, including your sister's. Kai felt a chill at her words. What do you know about my sister? Nothing specific. But Project Ascension involves human experimentation. Mining colonies like Cygnus 4 provide perfect cover for collecting test subjects. Kai's blood ran cold. He'd heard rumors about disappearances from the mining colonies, but had attributed them to the harsh conditions. If what Zia said was true. Fine, level 28, but we grab whatever you need and go. No heroics. They navigated through the maintenance tunnels, descending deeper into the station's infrastructure. Twice they had to hide from patrols of station security, and once they narrowly avoided a group of Hegemony mercenaries by ducking into a ventilation shaft. Level 28 housed the station's secondary data core, a maze of servers and processing units that maintained backup systems for the entire station. As they approached the entrance, Kai noticed the security measures' retinal scanners, armed guards, and automated defense turrets. This is a military-grade security setup, he whispered to Zia. How exactly do you plan to get in? In response, Zia reached into her torn garment and extracted a small device, no larger than a coin. This will handle the electronic security. The guards are your responsibility. Kai raised an eyebrow but didn't question her further. He studied the patrol pattern of the guards, two humans in standard station security uniforms. Their movements were predictable, separating at regular intervals as they walked their rounds. Wait for my signal, he told Zia, then slipped away, circling around to approach from the opposite side. When the guards separated again, Kai struck. He took the first guard from behind his mechanical gauntlet, delivering a precisely calibrated blow to the base of the skull, enough to render unconscious, not enough to kill. As the guard crumpled, Kai was already moving toward the second, who had just begun to turn at the sound. The second guard managed to raise his weapon, but Kai knocked it aside with one hand, while delivering a stunning blow with the other. Within seconds, both guards were unconscious. He signaled to Zia, who emerged from hiding, and immediately went to work on the security panel with her device. The retinal scanner flashed systems bypassed, and the door hissed open. How did you? Kai began. Later, Zia cut him off, striding into the data core. The room was cold, filled with the hum of servers and the blinking of countless status lights. Zia moved with purpose toward a specific terminal, her fingers flying over the interface. Keep watch, she ordered as she worked. Kai positioned himself near the door blaster, ready. We've got 5 minutes max before someone notices those guards are missing. Zia didn't respond entirely, focused on her task. Screens flickered before her as she navigated through security protocols and data structures with the expertise of a professional hacker. After what seemed like an eternity, but was probably only 2 minutes, she smiled triumphantly. Found it. She inserted a small crystal into the terminal, another device she'd somehow kept hidden in her garments. The crystal glowed as data transferred into it. When the process completed, she removed it and tucked it away. Time to go, she said. They left the data core, dragging the unconscious guards inside to buy a little more time before discovery. As they made their way toward level 35, and the secondary hangar alarms began to blare throughout the station. They've discovered the breach, Kai said grimly. More than that, Zia replied, her expression tense. My people have arrived. Your people, Kai repeated, confused. Before she could explain, the station shook violently, nearly throwing them off their feet. What was that? Kai demanded, steadying himself against a wall. Verdante battlecruisers engaging Hegemony forces in orbit, Zia explained. We need to hurry. This station will become a battlefield. They increased their pace, racing through maintenance corridors and service tunnels. Twice they encountered station security forces and had to fight their way through. Kai noticed that Zia was careful not to kill any of their opponents, using disabling strikes instead of lethal ones. When they finally reached level 35, they found the secondary hangar in chaos. Station personnel were scrambling to evacuate as the structure shook with continued orbital bombardment. Hegemony forces had established a checkpoint at the main entrance, checking identifications and detaining suspicious individuals. "We'll never get past them," Kai muttered, surveying the scene from their hidden position in a maintenance alcove. Zia pointed to a small maintenance airlock on the far side of the hangar. "Emergency technician access. It will put us directly on the landing field. And then what we still need a ship." There, Zia indicated a sleek vessel with hegemony markings. "Type 7 interceptor, fast, well-armed, and equipped with a hyperdrive." Kai stared at her. "You expect us to steal a hegemony military vessel that's suicide. Do you have a better suggestion?" she challenged. Another explosion rocked the station, more violent than before. A section of ceiling collapsed in the hangar, crushing several evacuation vessels and sending personnel running in panic. In the ensuing chaos, the hegemony checkpoint dissolved as the soldiers scrambled to regroup. "Now," Zia urged, pulling Kai toward the maintenance airlock. They slipped through unnoticed and emerged onto the landing field. The hangar's atmospheric shield shimmered above them, protecting them from the vacuum while allowing ships to pass through. Through it, Kai could see the battle raging in orbit, sleek, organic-looking Verdante vessels exchanging fire with the angular mechanistic ships of the hegemony fleet. They sprinted across the landing field toward the interceptor, using other vessels for cover. They were halfway there when a shout went up. Hegemony soldiers had spotted them and were in pursuit. "Keep going," Kai shouted to Zia. "I'll hold them off." He turned, dropping to one knee and taking aim with his stolen blaster. The first shot caught a hegemony soldier in the chest, sending him sprawling. The others dove for cover, returning fire. Plasma bolts sizzled past Kai's head as he provided covering fire for Zia's advance. When she reached the interceptor, Zia placed her hand on the access panel. To Kai's astonishment, the ship's hatch opened immediately. "Hegemony security override," she called to him. "Come on." Kai fired a few more shots to keep the soldiers pinned down, then turned and ran for the ship. Plasma bolts chased him across the landing field, one grazing his shoulder. He gritted his teeth against the pain and pushed harder, diving through the open hatch as Zia started the engines. The interceptor systems came to life, displays illuminating the cockpit. Zia's hands moved across the controls with practiced efficiency, bypassing startup protocols and bringing weapons online. "You know how to fly this thing?" Kai asked, strapping himself into the co-pilot seat. "I know how to fly anything," she replied, a hint of pride in her voice. The interceptor rose from the landing field as hegemony forces surrounded it, weapons firing. The shots bounced harmlessly off the ship's shields as Zia rotated it toward the atmospheric barrier. "Hold on," she warned, then punched the thrusters. The interceptor shot forward, bursting through the atmospheric shield and into space. Immediately, they were in the middle of a fierce battle. Verdante cruisers exchanged fire with hegemony destroyers, while smaller craft engaged in dogfights all around them. Zia piloted the interceptor, with incredible skill, weaving through the chaos. A squadron of hegemony fighters noticed them and broke off to give chase. "Enemy fighters on our tail," Kai reported, watching the tactical display. "Weapons control is on your side," Zia said calmly, executing a tight turn to avoid debris from a destroyed vessel. Kai familiarized himself with the controls, then targeted the pursuing fighters. The interceptor's weapons responded instantly, sending streams of plasma toward their pursuers. 2 fighters exploded, but the others continued their chase, returning fire. "We can't outrun them in a firefight," Zia said, preparing for hyperspace jump. "In the middle of a battle?" Kai questioned. "The navigation calculations?" "Already done," she cut him off. "I've input coordinates for a safe point in the Catherian Nebula. From there, we can plan our next move." Another hit rocked the interceptor, alarms blaring as shields weakened. "We can't take much more of this," Kai warned. "Hyperdrive charging," Zia reported. 20 seconds to jump." The pursuing fighters intensified their attack, sensing their prey was about to escape. Kai returned fire, desperately managing to destroy another pursuer, but unable to shake the rest. 10 seconds. A particularly violent hit sent the interceptor spinning. Zia fought with the controls, stabilizing their trajectory. 5 seconds. Kai looked at Zia. Her face illuminated by the glow of the controls, her expression one of fierce determination. In that moment, as death loomed all around them, he realized there was something extraordinary about this woman, something beyond her fighting skills or her knowledge of hegemony systems. "Who are you really?" he asked. As stars stretched into lines around them, and the interceptor leaped into hyperspace, leaving the battle behind, Zia turned to him with a slight smile. "I am Princess Zia Nalvarin of the Verdante royal house. And that," she held up the crystal containing the stolen data, "is a record of Hegemony Corporation's plan to experiment on humans, including those in mining colonies, like where your sister is held." Kai stared at her in shock. "You're royalty?" "Yes. I allowed myself to be captured to confirm our intelligence about Project Ascension." Her violet eyes hardened. "The Hegemony has been abducting our people for years. Now they've expanded to humans. The project involves genetic experimentation on an unprecedented scale." "Why, what are they trying to achieve?" Zia's expression grew grim. "They believe they can create hybrid soldiers with the best traits of multiple species. Verdante regenerative abilities, human adaptability, Duraxian strength. They intend to create the perfect army loyal only to them." The implications hit Kai like a physical blow. "And my sister, all the miners, they're just test subjects." "Potential subjects, yes. The mining operation is a front. Those who won't be missed are taken for experimentation." Kai's mechanical fists clenched so tightly that the servos whined in protest. "We have to stop them. We have to find Elise before they take her." "That's why I needed this data," Zia said, holding up the crystal. "It contains transfer schedules, facility locations, everything we need to find the experimental subjects and shut down Project Ascension." "So what's our next move?" Kai asked, his mind already racing ahead to a rescue mission. "We rendezvous with the Verdante fleet at the edge of the Catherian Nebula. From there, we can—" An alarm interrupted her, a warning light flashing on the interceptor's control panel. "What now?" Kai demanded. Zia checked the systems, her expression darkening. "Tracking beacon. The Hegemony can follow us through hyperspace." "Can you disable it?" "Not without dropping out of hyperspace, which would allow them to catch up." She thought for a moment, then made a decision. "Change of plans. There's a trading outpost in the Vega Minor system. We'll stop there, disable the beacon, and acquire new transportation." She adjusted their course, the stars outside, shifting as the interceptor altered its hyperspace trajectory. "How long?" Kai asked. 3 hours to Vega Minor." Kai nodded, then winced as the pain from his plasma burn made itself known again. Zia noticed immediately. "You're injured." "It's nothing, just a graze." She ignored his dismissal, rising from the pilot's seat, now that their course was set. "Medical kit should be in the rear compartment. Let me check." While she searched for medical supplies, Kai studied their stolen vessel more carefully. The Hegemony Interceptor was state-of-the-art, its systems more advanced than anything he'd encountered before. The weapons alone would be worth a fortune on the black market. Zia returned with a compact medical kit. "Remove your shirt." Kai complied, revealing the angry red burn across his right shoulder. Zia examined it with clinical detachment, then selected a treatment from the kit, a gelatinous blue substance that she applied directly to the wound. Instantly the pain subsided, replaced by a cooling sensation. Kai watched in fascination as the burned tissue began to visibly regenerate. "Hegemony medical technology," Zia explained. "Derived from Verdante biological research they stole." "So they've been studying your people for some time," Kai observed. "Yes. At first they approached diplomatically, offering trade agreements. When we refused to share our biological secrets, they began abducting our citizens." Her voice remained controlled, but Kai could sense the anger beneath. I was investigating one of their research facilities when I was captured, and then given to Grix as, what a prize. A distraction. They knew my people would come for me. They wanted to draw our fleet into an ambush. She finished treating his wound and stepped back. They underestimated both of us, it seems. Kai flexed his shoulder, amazed at how quickly the pain had disappeared. Why help me? You could have escaped on your own once I freed you. Zia returned to the pilot's seat before answering. Because you refuse to treat me as property. Because you fight for family, not conquest. She met his gaze directly. And because I believe our peoples must work together if we are to stop the hegemony. The rest of the journey to Vega Minor passed in relative silence, both of them lost in their own thoughts. Kai couldn't help wondering about Elise, whether she was still safe in the mines, or had already been taken for experimentation. The thought made his blood boil, his mechanical fists, clenching and unclenching reflexively. They dropped out of hyperspace near Vega Minor, a dusty crimson planet, orbited by a busy trading outpost. The outpost itself was a patchwork structure of interconnected stations, ships, and habitats, the kind of place where questions weren't asked, and credit spoke louder than identification. Zia guided the interceptor toward a secluded docking bay on the outpost's outer ring. This should buy us some time before they track us here, she said, as she powered down the engines. We need to find the tracking beacon and disable it, Kai reminded her. First, we need to secure alternate transportation. Once we disable the beacon, this ship will be useless to us. They'll be looking for it. Zia rose from her seat. I have a contact here who might help us. Lydia. She calls herself the Duchess. A smuggler, Kai guessed. Among other things, she specializes in transport that avoids official attention. They disembarked cautiously, Kai, keeping the stolen blaster ready. The docking bay was relatively quiet, with only a few mechanics and dock workers present, none of whom paid them much attention. Zia led the way through the maze-like corridors of the trading outpost, navigating with surprising familiarity. You've been here before, Kai noted. Verdante Intelligence has operatives everywhere, she replied simply. They reached a section of the outpost that appeared more prosperous. The shops had actual security systems, and the clientele wore clothing that wasn't patched or stained. Zia stopped outside an establishment with a neon sign depicting a stylized transport ship. The Duchess operates from here, she explained. Follow my lead and let me do the talking. Inside, the establishment was dimly lit and filled with the murmur of hushed conversations. Various species occupied booths and tables, conducting business away from prying eyes. Zia approached the bar, where a multi-armed Zalatian was mixing drinks with practiced efficiency. We're looking for the Duchess, she said quietly. The bartender's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. Not familiar with the name. Zia placed a small green gemstone on the counter, another item she'd apparently kept hidden in her garments. Perhaps this will refresh your memory. The bartender examined the gem, then nodded almost imperceptibly. Back room. She's expecting you. Kai raised an eyebrow at Zia as they moved toward the rear of the establishment. She's expecting us. A figure of speech, Zia assured him. The gem identifies me as Verdante royalty. Anyone with that recognition is granted an audience. The back room was more luxuriously appointed than the main area, with actual gravity furniture and atmosphere control. A human woman sat at a large desk, her silver hair elaborately styled and her clothing expensively tailored. Despite her elegant appearance, there was a hardness in her eyes that spoke of a difficult past. Princess Zia, the woman greeted them without standing. I heard rumors of your capture, clearly exaggerated. Duchess, Zia inclined her head slightly. This is Kai Blackwood. The woman's gaze shifted to Kai, assessing him with the cool calculation of a professional. The arena fighter. Your reputation precedes you. Her attention returned to Zia. What brings Verdante royalty and a human gladiator to my humble establishment? We need transport, Zia said directly, and information. The Duchess leaned back in her chair. Both expensive commodities. We have a Hegemony Type 7 interceptor in Docking Bay 94, Kai interjected. Newest model fully armed. Interest flickered in the Duchess's eyes. Stolen, I presume. Liberated, Kai corrected. It has a tracking beacon, Zia added. We need it disabled, then the ship is yours as payment. The Duchess considered this. A fair offer. What destination and information do you require? Cygnus 4, Kai answered immediately. And we need to know about Hegemony operations there, specifically, any facilities that might be involved with something called Project Ascension. The Duchess's expression changed subtly, a flicker of recognition quickly masked. Project Ascension, she repeated. You're playing a dangerous game. You know of it, Zia observed. I know enough to avoid knowing more, the Duchess replied carefully. But yes, there is a Hegemony research facility on Cygnus 4 separate from the mining operation, heavily guarded. Few who enter ever leave. Kai felt his heart rate accelerate. The mining operation, do you know if they've been transferring workers to this facility? The Duchess studied him for a moment. You have someone there? My sister, Kai confirmed. Elise Blackwood, captured 2 years ago. The Duchess activated a data terminal on her desk fingers, moving across the interface. After a few moments, she nodded. According to my sources, there's a transfer scheduled 3 days from now. 20 miners selected for special assignment. I don't have names, but the timing matches what I know of their operation schedule. Kai's mechanical fists clenched. 3 days. We have to get there before then. I can provide a vessel that will get you there in 2, the Duchess said. Modified Siren-class courier. Not as heavily armed as your interceptor, but faster and with stealth capabilities. She looked at Zia. It will require the interceptor plus something else of value. Without hesitation, Zia removed a bracelet from her wrist, a delicate construction of what appeared to be living metal, constantly shifting in subtle patterns. Verdante Royal insignia, she explained, placing it on the desk. Worth a governor's ransom to the right collector. The Duchess picked up the bracelet, examining it with expert eyes. Acceptable, she finally said. I'll have my people disable the tracker on your interceptor and prepare the siren for immediate departure. She fixed them both with a stern look. One piece of advice: whatever you're planning at Cygnus 4, the Hegemony facility, is built into the mountains. The only way in or out is through the main entrance or via the supply route through Redstone Canyon. Thank you, Duchess, Zia said formally. Don't thank me, the older woman replied. Just make sure the Hegemony regrets whatever they're doing there. Bad for business, these corporate experiments. She tapped a communication device. Hagen, prepare Bay 17 for our guests. The siren needs to be flight-ready in 1 hour. As promised, the Siren-class courier was ready for them within the hour. It was smaller than the interceptor, but its sleek lines suggested speed and maneuverability. The Duchess herself oversaw their departure, providing them with clearance codes to leave the trading outpost without inspection. Once they were safely in hyperspace, bound for Cygnus, 4 Kai finally had time to process everything that had happened in the past day. From arena fighter to fugitive allied with an alien princess against a powerful corporation, it was a dramatic change of circumstances, even by his standards. You should rest, Zia suggested, noticing his contemplative mood. The autopilot can handle the journey. We'll need to be at our best when we reach Cygnus 4. Kai nodded, realizing how exhausted he truly was. The courier had 2 small sleeping compartments, and he gratefully retreated to one, removing his mechanical gauntlets and setting them aside before collapsing onto the bunk. He dreamed of Elise, not as she might be now, but as she had been when they were children on Earth, before the colony ships, before the raid that had separated them. In his dream, she smiled at him, her brown eyes twinkling with mischief, as they always had when she was planning some adventure. Find me, she said in the dream. I'm still here, Kai. I'm waiting. He woke with a start, disoriented for a moment before remembering where he was. The ship's chronometer indicated he'd slept for nearly 8 hours. He reattached his gauntlets and made his way to the cockpit, where he found Zia studying a holographic display of Cygnus 4. "Good, you're awake," she greeted him. "We'll be arriving in approximately 4 hours." Kai studied the hologram. "What's the plan?" "The Duchess's information suggests the transfer will happen via the supply route, through Redstone Canyon." Zia indicated a winding passage through a mountain range. "If we intercept the transport there, we can free your sister and the other miners before they reach the research facility." "And what about the data crystal? The information on Project Ascension?" Zia held up the crystal. "This contains enough evidence to implicate the hegemony in illegal experimentation. Once we've rescued the prisoners, we transmit this data to both Verdante High Command and the Earth Colonial Authority." "They'll deny everything," Kai pointed out. "Corporations like Hegemony have resources to bury this kind of scandal." "Not when faced with joint action from both our governments," Zia countered. "This isn't just about saving your sister Kai. It's about stopping them from creating an army that could threaten all our worlds." Kai nodded, recognizing the larger implications. Still in his heart, Elise remained the priority. Everything else was secondary. "So we ambushed the transport in the canyon," he said, focusing on the immediate mission. "What kind of resistance should we expect?" Standard hegemony security detail for prisoner transport is 6 guards plus a driver," Zia answered. "However, given the nature of Project Ascension, they may assign additional forces." "Can't we just shoot down the transport?" Zia looked at him sharply. "With your sister, and 19 other innocent people on board. Besides, we need witnesses to corroborate what's in the data crystal." Kai sighed. "You're right. So we disable the transport without harming the occupants, neutralize the guards, and free the prisoners." "Exactly. The Siren is equipped with a localized EMP device that can disable the transport systems without harming the occupants. Once it's stopped, we move in." They spent the remainder of the journey planning their ambush, studying the terrain of Redstone Canyon, and rehearsing their approach. When they finally arrived in the Cygnus system, Zia activated the Siren's stealth systems, allowing them to approach the planet undetected. Cygnus 4 was a desolate world, its surface predominantly red rock and dust, with sparse vegetation concentrated around the equatorial regions. The mining operation was visible from orbit, a sprawling complex of excavation sites, processing facilities, and worker housing. Separate from this, partially built into a mountain range, was a more streamlined facility with hegemony markings. Even from a distance, the security measures were evident: perimeter sensors, automated defense turrets, and regular patrol patterns by armed guards. The research facility, Zia confirmed, magnifying the image. "Too heavily defended for a frontal assault." "Then we stick to the plan," Kai said. "Intercept in the canyon." They brought the Siren down in a secluded valley near Redstone Canyon, using the ship's sensor suite to monitor hegemony communications and movements. According to the intercepted transmissions, the prisoner transfer was indeed scheduled for the following day, a convoy departing from the mining complex at dawn. "We should rest," Zia suggested. "Tomorrow will require all our strength and focus." Kai nodded, though he doubted he would sleep much. They were so close now, Elise potentially within reach, after 2 long years of separation. The thought both exhilarated and terrified him. What if she wasn't among the selected miners? What if she had already been transferred to the facility? What if the experiments had already begun? As if sensing his turmoil, Zia placed a hand on his arm. "We will find her, Kai. I promise you that." Her touch was surprisingly warm, her skin slightly textured, in a way that wasn't quite human, but wasn't unpleasant. Kai found himself drawing strength from her confidence. "Thank you," he said simply. They prepared the Siren for quick departure, then took turns resting, while the other maintained watch. The night passed slowly each hour, stretching endlessly, as Kai's thoughts repeatedly returned to his sister and what might lie ahead. Dawn on Cygnus 4 brought a sky tinged with purple and orange, a result of dust particles in the upper atmosphere. Kai and Zia positioned themselves on a ridge overlooking Redstone Canyon, using high-powered optics to observe the approaching convoy. It consisted of 3 vehicles, a lead security transport, the prisoner transport itself in the middle, and another security vehicle bringing up the rear. All bore hegemony markings and appeared heavily armored. Kai, Zia said, suddenly adjusting her optical enhancer. The rear guard, those aren't standard hegemony forces. He focused his own enhancer on the trailing vehicle. Through the armored viewport, he could make out the occupants humanoid in shape, but with distinctly non-human features. They seemed to possess both Duraxian and Verdante characteristics. Their skin, a mottled mixture of chitinous plates and green tissue. Hybrids, he breathed. They've already begun creating them. Zia's expression hardened. Abominations forced into existence against the natural order. She lowered her enhancer. This changes things. We don't know their capabilities or weaknesses. The plan remains the same, Kai insisted. We disable the vehicles with the EMP, deal with the guards, hybrid or otherwise, and free the prisoners. They returned to the siren and prepared for the intercept. Zia piloted while Kai manned the weapon systems, including the EMP device. They lifted off, flying low through the canyon to avoid detection until the last possible moment. As the convoy entered the narrowest section of Redstone Canyon, Zia brought the siren into position directly above them, hovering just beyond visual range. Kai targeted the EMP and fired. A pulse of bluish energy engulfed the convoy. All 3 vehicles immediately lost power, rolling to a stop as their engines died. Alarms would be sounding inside, but with communications also disabled, they couldn't call for help. Zia brought the siren down a short distance ahead of the convoy, blocking their path. She and Kai disembarked quickly, weapons ready, Kai with his mechanical gauntlets powered up, and a hegemony blaster, Zia with a sleek Verdante energy weapon she'd found aboard the siren. The guards from the lead vehicle were the first to emerge, weapons drawn. Zia shouted a warning in multiple languages, including standard Earth trade. We are not here to harm you. Surrender your weapons and release the prisoners. The guards responded with plasma fire. Kai and Zia took cover behind rock formations, returning fire with precision shots, aimed to disable rather than kill. 2 guards went down with non-lethal wounds before the others retreated behind their vehicle. Cover me, Kai called to Zia. When she provided suppressing fire, Kai sprinted toward the prisoner transport, using his enhanced speed to close the distance before the guards could react. He reached the vehicle and used his mechanical gauntlet to tear open the locked door. Inside, 20 people in mining uniforms stared at him with a mixture of fear and hope. Kai scanned their faces, frantically looking for Elise. Kai. A voice from the back of the transport. A woman pushed forward, her face thinner than he remembered, her hair cut short, but unmistakably his sister. Elise. He reached for her, helping her out of the transport. We need to move now. Everyone follow me to our ship. The miners didn't need to be told twice. They scrambled out of the transport, following Kai's directions to run toward the siren. Zia continued to provide covering fire, keeping the hegemony guards pinned down. But the rear security transport had been a problem they hadn't fully anticipated. The hybrid soldiers emerged, moving with inhuman speed and coordination. Unlike the standard guards, they showed no fear, advancing despite Zia's accurate fire. Get the miners aboard, Zia shouted to Kai. I'll hold them off. Kai hesitated, torn between ensuring Elise's safety and helping Zia. His sister made the decision for him. Go help her, Elise urged. I can guide the others to the ship. Kai nodded and turned back toward the battle. Zia was engaged in close combat with 2 hybrid soldiers, her Verdante fighting style barely keeping them at bay. Their movements were unnaturally coordinated, as though guided by a single mind. Kai charged into the fray, his mechanical gauntlets smashing into the nearest hybrid, with enough force to send it flying backward. The creature recovered almost instantly, leaping back into the fight with no sign of pain or injury. They're resistant to physical trauma, Zia called out, dodging a vicious swipe from the other hybrid. Aim for the neural interface at the base of the skull. Kai adjusted his tactics, focusing on precision rather than raw power. When the hybrid lunged at him again, he sidestepped and delivered a targeted strike to the back of its neck. The creature convulsed and collapsed, its systems disrupted. Zia dispatched her opponent similarly, then turned to face the remaining hegemony forces. But they had retreated to defensive positions, clearly reassessing the situation. "We need to go," Kai urged, "before reinforcements arrive." They ran for the siren, where Elise had successfully guided all the miners aboard. As they reached the ship, a new sound echoed through the canyon, the distinctive whine of hegemony interceptors. They tracked the EMP signature, Zia realized as they scrambled aboard. She immediately headed for the cockpit, powering up the engines, while Kai secured the hatch. The liberated miners were crowded in the siren's cargo hold, looking bewildered but grateful. Elise approached Kai, embracing him tightly. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. "I never lost faith." Kai held his sister, overwhelmed by emotion. After 2 years of fighting, planning, and sacrifice, she was finally safe. But there was no time for a proper reunion, not yet. "I need to help Zia," he told Elise gently. "We're not clear yet." In the cockpit, Zia was already lifting off the siren's engines, straining as they rose out of the canyon. The tactical display showed 3 hegemony interceptors, closing in from the direction of the research facility. "They're faster than us in atmosphere," Zia reported grimly. "We need to reach space to engage the hyperdrive." Kai took the weapons controls. "Just get us there. I'll keep them busy." The siren's weapons were more limited than the interceptors had been, but Kai made the most of them, firing strategically to force the pursuing vessels to take evasive action rather than maintain a direct pursuit course. One lucky shot caught an interceptor's stabilizer, sending it spiraling toward the planet's surface. "2 left," Kai reported. "But they're gaining." Zia pushed the siren harder, climbing rapidly toward the edge of the atmosphere. The ship shuddered as a plasma bolt from a pursuer grazed their shields. "Shields at 60%, Zia announced. "One more direct hit and we're in trouble." "Almost there," Kai encouraged, returning fire to keep the interceptors at bay. They broke atmosphere, the black of space opening up before them. The tactical display showed the hegemony research facility launching additional pursuit craft. "Hyperdrive spooling up," Zia reported. 30 seconds to jump." Another hit rocked the ship. "Shields at 20%. Kai targeted the lead interceptor and fired a concentrated burst. The shot connected, damaging the vessel's propulsion system and causing it to lose speed. But the remaining interceptor continued to close its weapons, charging for another volley. 10 seconds to jump," Zia announced tensely. The interceptor fired. Kai braced for impact, but the shot never landed. A new vessel had appeared, a sleek, organic-looking craft that intercepted the plasma bolt with its own shields. "Verdante cruiser!" Zia exclaimed, her voice filled with relief. The cruiser moved to position itself between the siren and the hegemony forces, its superior firepower driving them back. "This is Commander Telveren of the Verdante Royal Fleet." A voice came through their communication system. "Princess Zia, we've been searching for you." "Perfect timing, Commander," Zia responded. "We have 20 liberated prisoners and evidence of hegemony war crimes, requesting immediate escort." "Coordinates received. We'll cover your jump and follow." "Hyperdrive ready," Zia reported to Kai. "Jumping now." The stars stretched into lines as the siren leaped into hyperspace, leaving Cygnus 4 and the hegemony forces behind. In the relative safety of hyperspace, Kai finally had a moment to properly reunite with his sister. Elise looked older than her 26 years, with new lines around her eyes and a hardness that hadn't been there before. But when she smiled, Kai could still see the sister he remembered. "You went through all this for me?" she asked, gesturing around the ship. "I never stopped looking," Kai assured her. "Never stopped fighting to find you." Elise embraced him again, then pulled back to study him. "And her?" She nodded toward Zia, who was checking on the other rescued miners. "Is she your—" "Allie," Kai said, then reconsidered. "Friend, I think. It's complicated." "She's not human," Elise observed. "Verdante. Princess Zia Nalvaran, actually." Kai explained briefly how they had met and the discovery of Project Ascension. Those weren't just mines, Elise. They were taking people for experiments. If we hadn't come today— Elise nodded grimly. I suspected something. People would disappear, miners who were healthy strong. The overseers said they were transferred to other sites, but they never came back. Did they do anything to you? Kai asked, almost afraid of the answer. Tests, blood samples, genetic screening disguised as health checks. Elise shuddered. When they selected us for a special assignment, I feared the worst. Zia approached them, her expression grave. Elise, the other miners mentioned you kept records of the disappearances. Elise nodded. I memorized names, dates, patterns, anything that might help if I ever escaped. She hesitated. There's something else. One of the doctors, Dr. Morris, he slipped me information before we left. He seemed regretful. Said he hadn't signed up for what they were doing. What kind of information? Kai asked. Coordinates. A Hegemony black site in the Epsilon sector. He said it was the main Project Ascension facility, where they perfected the process before implementing it on Cygnus 4. Zia and Kai exchanged glances. With that, plus the data crystal and these witnesses, Kai began. We could bring down the entire operation, Zia finished. Not just one facility, but the whole project. They rejoined the Verdante fleet at the rendezvous point, a dozen warships gathered in deep space, far from Hegemony territory. The miners were transferred to a medical frigate for treatment, while Kai, Elise, and Zia were welcomed aboard the flagship. In the command center, they presented their evidence to the Verdante High Command and via secure transmission to representatives of the Earth Colonial Authority. The data crystal contained detailed records of the experimentation genetic sequencing and lists of test subjects, both Verdante and human. This is a clear violation of the Treaty of New Geneva, the Earth representative declared. The Colonial Authority will dispatch a peacekeeping fleet immediately to secure the Cygnus facility. And the Verdante Royal Fleet will target the Epsilon Black Site, the Verdante Admiral added. Princess Zia, your intelligence work has been invaluable. Zia inclined her head gracefully, though Kai could see the weariness behind her composure. The credit belongs equally to Kai Blackwood and his sister. Without them, we would still be unaware of the full scope of Project Ascension. Later, in private quarters assigned to them aboard the flagship, Kai found a moment to speak with Zia alone. She stood by a viewport, watching the stars, her posture straight, but somehow vulnerable. What happens now? He asked. She turned to him, her violet eyes meeting his. Our peoples unite against a common threat. The Hegemony will face justice for their crimes. And after that you return to your royal duties and I go back to fighting in arenas. A small smile touched her lips. Is that what you want, Kai Blackwood, to return to the life you had? He considered the question seriously. No, he finally admitted. That life was about survival, about earning enough to find Elise. Now that I have her back. He trailed off, uncertain. The Verdante people would welcome a representative from Earth, Zia suggested. Someone who understands both our worlds, who has proven their courage and integrity. A diplomat, Kai laughed softly. I'm a fighter, not a politician. You're more than that, Zia countered. You're a man who refused to accept injustice, who fought not for glory, but for family. Those are qualities my people respect, she paused. That I respect. Something unspoken passed between them, a recognition of the bond that had formed through danger and shared purpose. I'll consider it, Kai promised. 3 days later, the combined forces of Earth and Verdante launched coordinated strikes against Hegemony facilities. The Cygnus 4 Research Center surrendered without significant resistance, its personnel abandoning Project Ascension rather than face war crimes tribunals. The Epsilon Black Site proved more challenging, but ultimately fell to the superior numbers and righteous determination of the Allied fleet. Kai, Elise, and Zia observed the Epsilon operation from the Verdante flagship, watching as the liberated test subjects, hundreds of them, both human and Verdante, were evacuated to medical ships. It's over, Elise said softly. They can't hide what they did anymore. Not over, Zia corrected gently. Only beginning. Now comes the healing, the rebuilding of trust between our peoples. Kai nodded, understanding the magnitude of what they had set in motion. From a desperate gladiator fighting for credits to free his sister, he had become part of something far larger, an alliance between species, a stand against exploitation and cruelty. As the flagship set course for Verdante, carrying representatives of both worlds to formalize their new alliance, Kai stood with Zia on the observation deck. The stars streaked past them, each representing possibilities he had never imagined. "I've decided to accept your offer," he told her, "to serve as a representative of Earth." Zia's expression brightened. "A wise decision, though I suspect it may not always be an easy role." "Nothing worthwhile ever is," Kai replied, thinking of the journey that had brought him here. From the blood-soaked sand of Sector 47's arena to the gleaming deck of a Verdante warship, a path he could never have foreseen, yet one that felt strangely right. As if reading his thoughts, Zia placed her hand over his. "You came seeking your sister and found so much more." Kai turned his hand to clasp hers, feeling the subtle differences in her skin, texture, the warmth that reminded him they were not so different after all. "A slave who turned out to be a princess," he mused. "Grix actually did me a favor in the end." Zia laughed, the sound musical and genuine. "Perhaps we should send him a thank-you note from our respective royal courts." "I have a feeling he's a bit busy right now explaining to his clients how he lost a Verdante princess and an arena champion in the same day." As they stood together watching the stars, Kai felt a sense of peace he hadn't known since before Elise's capture. His sister was safe. The hegemony's experiments were exposed, and beside him stood a remarkable woman from another world who had shown him possibilities beyond fighting for survival. Whatever challenges lay ahead, diplomatic negotiations, cultural differences, the inevitable complications of an unprecedented alliance, he would face them with the same determination that had carried him through the arena and beyond. But no longer alone. Now he had Elise back. Now he had Zia. He was no longer just a gladiator fighting for credits. He was Kai Blackwood, representative of Earth to the Verdante people, ally of Princess Zia Nalvarin, and part of something greater than himself. The stars continued their eternal dance outside the viewport, witnesses to a new beginning, born from desperate circumstances, a fight for family that had changed the fate of two worlds.